The Archdiocese of Chicago is a vibrant and diverse faith community. We celebrate our faith through worship, evangelization, and reaching out to the needy. Welcome to Catholic Chicago.
Good morning, welcome to Catholic Chicago. I'm Father Greg Sakowicz, Rector of Holy Cathedral here in Chicago. Unfortunately, Mark Tracy again is not able to make it this morning. We have a great program lined up, so I'll do a little introduction to my beautiful guest here to my left here. This morning on Catholic Chicago, I'm joined by Francis Cardinal George Studio by Dr. Rita George Tvrtkovic, who is the new Dean of the School of Parish Leadership and Evangelization. She comes to us most recently from Benedictine University in Lisle, where she was on the faculty for 15 years, rising through the ranks to become a tenured full professor of theology, and most recently serving as chair of the Department of Theology, Philosophy, and History. But she also worked for a time with the Archdiocese of Chicago, 1999 to 2002, with Father Tom Baima, and God bless his soul, he and I were high school classmates, as Associate Director of the Office of Ecumenical and Interreligious Affairs. She's a consultor to the Vatican Dicastery, Interreligious Dialogue, and a member of the USCCB Catholic-Muslim Dialogue. Our conversation this morning will be about the importance of Christian, Jewish, and Muslim dialogue. So Dr. Rita, welcome to the program this morning.
Great to be here.
And the thing is, I said to you off the air, if you were with the Archdiocese 1999, 2002, you look about 29 years old. You must have started when you were 3 years old.
Thank you very much. A little older than that, but yes.
And you were actually born in Milwaukee.
Yes.
And off the air, make it very clear that even though born in Milwaukee, allegiance to the Chicago Bears, which is fine with me, and that's good. Now, with your background, in all that you could have done, how did you end up in this line of work? Did you go back to high school, to college?
Yeah.
What piqued your interest?
So when I was in college, I did an archaeological dig in Jordan. At the time, I was an anthropology major, always interested in different cultures, languages, and peoples. But I really became intrigued by Islam and the call to prayer while I was in Jordan. I also had some Muslim friends at the time. So shifting from undergraduate studies in anthropology, I did a master's degree at Weston Jesuit School of Theology, focusing on church history and the relationship between Christians and Muslims in history, and then went on to the University of Notre Dame to do history of Christianity, again a focus on Christian-Muslim relations in the medieval period, but then also in the contemporary.
What is your PhD topic?
It is like the dissertation topic. So I looked at a Dominican, Roccola da Montecroce, 13th century, from Italy, lived in Iraq, learned Arabic, met with Muslims, and wrote very interesting books about the ambivalence he felt. On the one hand, he went to criticize Muslims and try to convert them. And on the other hand, when he met Muslims face to face, he praised them for their prayer, for their reverence for God, for their study. So very unusual for the medieval period to have someone with that ambivalence because he knew Muslims.
That is fascinating. And it took you how long to do the doctorate?
Oh, standard 5 years. Had a few children on the way, and then came back to Chicago, got the job at Benedictine University, which is of course a Catholic university, but with about 25% Muslim student body. So every class was an opportunity for interreligious dialogue.
And as a child, you were raised in what religion?
Catholic, cradle Catholic.
Cradle Catholic.
Yep.
So mom Catholic, dad Catholic.
Mom Catholic, dad Catholic, German, Polish, Italian. Yes.
Now the thing is, in the work that you do in the dialogue with the importance of Christian, Jewish, Muslim dialogue, what is the biggest myth that you try to diffuse?
Oh, there's so many myths.
And
there's so many historical, well, I would just say this, that both Christians have a long history of both anti-Judaism and anti-Islamic sentiment. I mean, now we talk about Islamophobia, but I would just say theologically, these are very old ideas, not only in the Latin West, 13th century and earlier, but also in the Christian East as well. And so I would say that we are still dealing with stereotypes about both Jews and Muslims today that we have inherited from centuries, and people don't even realize how old these stereotypes are. So, and a second thing I would say is that as someone who focuses on Christian-Muslim dialogue, but who had a professor, Rabbi Michael Signer at Notre Dame, who did medieval Christian-Jewish relations, I would say it's very important for people to not do dialogue in isolation. So even though I do Christian-Muslim dialogue, I always have to keep the dialogue Jewish dialogue at hand. Can't do them in isolation. As Christians, we cannot. So I think, I wouldn't say that's a myth, but I would say right now, especially with, Gaza, Israel tensions, that we have to have both of those dialogues in mind.
It's interesting because I'll be 73 next month, and we're talking always with my mother and father and my mother's brother, Uncle Ted. When they were raised in a Polish neighborhood by Milwaukee Division, my Uncle Ted, who was a great athlete and loved sports, was not allowed to go to the YMCA as a boy back in the 1930s because that's where the Protestants hung out. So you have this Catholicism in isolation, and then, as you say, the myths, the history regarding Judaism, Muslim, Protestants. It's like we isolated ourselves, like us versus them. So in the work that you do in the dialogue, and I think the key word is a dialogue, what is the number one thing you try to promote in a dialogue situation?
Well, I would say, first of all, that dialogue is not only talking, that there are 4 kinds of dialogue. So the dialogue of theological exchange, religious experience, social action, and life.
Say those 4 things again.
Dialogue of theological discussion, religious experience, social action, and life. So my point is, first of all, that anybody can do dialogue. And in fact, Nostra Aetate, the document from the Second Vatican Council, exhorts Catholics to do dialogue. And any Catholic can do it, not just PhDs. But the dialogue of life is, there are Muslims, Jews, Methodists who are my neighbors, who are my colleagues, who are my doctors. And so I would say anyone can do dialogue. I'd also say that dialogue isn't just about content of, well, let's talk about what's your scripture, my scripture, what's your idea of grace, what's my idea of grace, or what have you. It's also an attitude and a praxis. And we as a country need to have a dialogical attitude, be it intercultural, interreligious, interpolitical dialogue.
That's fascinating. Now, the thing is, along those lines, where does the dialogue break down? Where do people start putting walls up and barriers up and get defensive?
I think a way to prevent that from happening, which can always happen, is if you start the dialogue with kind of principles of why are we here? What are our goals? Let's set the ground rules of the dialogue. But I think fundamentally the ground rules of dialogue are, the goals, I should say, are, number 1, to increase understanding and respect and build relationships.
Yeah,
and number
that's
2,
key.
Number 1, and number 2, pursue truth together. And pursuing truth together, especially if you're coming from different religions, definitely will mean you will come up against some irreconcilable differences.
Right.
But instead of running away from those differences or playing them down, once you've built a relationship of trust, you can talk about those things. And that's where the best learning happens.
Now, in the years you've been doing this, could you go back a good number of years?
Till 97, I was on the first Catholic-Muslim dialogue that Cardinal George put together in the Archdiocese.
29 years ago. Amazing. Now, okay, in those 29 years, what shifts have you seen? What progress have you seen made?
Well, I've seen dialogue integrated into parish life, which is very important, grassroots parish life. For example, at St. Fabian's Catholic Church in Bridgeview, the women at St. Fabian's have, with the local Bridgeview Mosque, a 25-year plus local dialogue. So these are grassroots relationships that are merging and building over the years. Also, university students have really taken the lead with dialogue, which is great. Of course, the Archdiocese itself has an office for ecumenical and interreligious affairs, and some parishes do the work, right? But it's really nice to see it not only top down, but bottom up, grassroots up, right? So I really see that dialogue as an idea and a practice, including social action, is happening. Like, for example, some of the immigration protests throughout the country, for example, in San Diego with the new bishop there, who himself is a Vietnamese refugee, included interfaith elements. One of the Muslims on the National Catholic-Muslim Dialogue was there at the detention center in San Diego with an Anglican minister, whatever. So I've seen the flowering of dialogue. You mentioned sort of roadblocks or challenges. And I would say definitely the October 7th event, Israel-Palestine, heightened disagreement, has highlighted some challenges in specifically both Catholic-Muslim, Catholic-Jewish, Jewish-Muslim dialogue.
Say more about that, because that was such a key moment.
It is a key moment, and it continues, because I think what happened after October 7th is a lot of these dialogue groups and people who have had 20 years of experience of dialogue suddenly were second-guessing, like, what's the purpose of dialogue? Can we talk to each other? Is it possible? So that has continued to kind of strain relations in all those areas.
Let me ask you this, Rita. When you deal with Muslims, and they're a wonderful group of people, but does the dialogue break down when you get into the extremist view of Muslim?
The dialogue doesn't break down on that. In fact, the dialogue highlights, right, when you have a dialogue, all of us have extremist elements in our religions, in history and present. And so I think when you're in a relationship with someone, first you learn, first of all, I would say this, you learn that there's no such thing as a dialogue between Islam and Christianity. There's only dialogues between individual Muslims and individual Christians in different places at different times, and they're so different, right?
Can you define something for me? When you differentiate between Islam and Muslim.
Okay. Islam is the name of the religion.
Okay.
Muslims are adherents. And Islam means submission to God. And so a Muslim is one who submits to God, which is interesting. If you look at the Second Vatican Council document Nostra Aetate, and it highlights some similarities between Christians and Muslims, it talks about Muslims submitting to the will of God, which of course Christians do too when we, in our Father prayer, ask to do the will of God. Thy will be done. So it's interesting to think about those words and the etymology of Muslim and submitter to the will of God, and how is that connected to Catholics? So Muslims that I'm talking to, of course, will condemn the extremist Muslims in their midst, which is a small minority, but they get a lot of airtime.
Which would have been that October event.
Absolutely.
The extremists.
Absolutely. Minority, right? So I think, of course, the more we Catholics get to know individual Muslims and to understand Islam is not a monolith. So, you know, Indonesian Islam is different from Nigerian Islam, is different from Bosnian Islam, is different from North American Islam and African American Islam. Once you get into and think about like the diversity in Catholicism. Exactly. Polish, Filipino, Latino, right? So same diversity in Islam. And very quickly you see it's an issue, extremism, but among the many issues to talk about.
When you have Catholicism, my background happens to be 100% Polish, so I was raised with Polish Catholic traditions that would not be found in an Irish family, German family, Italian family, yet under the label of Catholicism.
Yes.
You know, mother Catholic, father Catholic, cradle Catholic myself, but have certain traditions that were not found in other homes. So I talk to my friends as a kid, they say, well, Greg, what are you talking about? I said, well, what are you talking about? We're going to take a break here on Catholic Chicago. I'm Father Greg Sakowicz. Our guest is Dr. Rita George Tvrtkovic. I think I got the name right.
Yes.
I love that last name of yours. So stay with us. We'll be back after a break. And do not touch that dial, even though this is a podcast.
I am a seminarian.
The Church needs compassionate and well-trained priests to help guide each of us through life.
What inspires me, what draws me always to the priesthood is continue to see priests be a beacon of hope for other people.
You can play a part in the education of these young men as they prepare for a life of service to others.
I want to be that beacon of hope too. And it sets my heart on fire.
To support our seminarians, make your gift at archchicago.org/seminarian fund or call 312-534-7959.
Welcome back to Catholic Chicago. I'm Father Greg Sakowicz, and our guest is Dr. Rita George Tvrtkovic, who is at Mundelein Seminary and big position at the seminary. Your exact title at Mundelein Seminary is you are the director.
I'm the Dean and Professor of Theology at the School for Parish Leadership and Evangelization.
And you began at Mundelein when?
July 1st of 2025.
So really, then, you've been with it now a little over half a year.
Correct.
And I know that they love you at the seminary. Now, maybe for a moment, Rita, you're also involved as a consultant for the Vatican Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue. What does that mean?
Great question. In October of 2020, I got a letter in Latin from Pope Francis.
In Latin?
In Latin, appointing me to be a consultor to the Dicastery for Interreligious Dialogue for 5 years, and I was recently reappointed by Pope Leo. And so, but it doesn't really give you any details about what that job entails, hence your question. But basically,
Now,
it's
who translated the letter for you?
me. I'm a medievalist.
Oh, so you're great with Latin.
I'm decent with
I'm
Latin.
not.
I can get the Latin, yes. So
I can't.
So anyway, what does it mean to be a consultor? So basically, there is a council of bishops who serves as the Pontifical Council for Interreligious Dialogue. So we, professors and practitioners around the world, there's about 25 to 30 of us who were appointed to consult. So what does that mean? They might call on us to take a look at a document they're preparing. We've had meetings both on Zoom and actually in person. There was a plenary meeting where we talk with the bishops and where we talk with the excellent dicastery staff who's planning interreligious events around the world. And I also have been involved in organizing the first all-women interreligious network global. We had a conference at the Vatican in 2023, and now we women meet by Zoom once a month, and we're planning hopefully to go to Indonesia next year.
How many women gather on the Zoom?
So the total group has about 40 women from 13 different religions and about 40 countries. But the monthly Zoom meetings, maybe there's about 15 there. You know, people are busy and what have you. But we're active on WhatsApp. We connect with one another. We have people such as a woman in Indonesia who's the daughter of one of the former presidents. So she does political and interreligious dialogue. And we have professors and we have other people, these women. So it's a great group because the Vatican realized that we need to get more women involved in interreligious dialogue, or actually acknowledge the work that women are already doing in interreligious dialogue.
The thing is now, if you connect that with work at Mundelein as the dean, at the University of Myrtle Lake, I was ordained in 1979, so I'm an oldie. I actually started on as a seminarian in September of 1975, a deacon 1978, ordained in 79. So with the gift of God, priesthood 47 years come May. Those are 4 wonderful years. I used to call those grounds of Mundelein Seminary heavenly. You know, beautiful. But now it's interesting this, in my day, I used to love the nature. I used to go walking. I was a big bird watcher. There was not one deer on the property. I know there's deer everywhere now at Mundelein Seminary, but in my day, I would walk the grounds. I'd be bird watching back in the woods. Never saw a deer. And now they are plentiful from what I hear all over, you know, year round. And so in the work that you do with the seminarians, precisely what is it about?
It's a great question because things have been changing on campus aside from just the deer. So my School of Parish Leadership and Evangelization, right? So you think of University of St. Mary the Lake as sort of the overarching title. Then we have the seminary, and now we have the school. And so the focus of the school are grad programs, parish ministry programs for lay people, and the diaconate formation program. So my vision is that this is a place, this campus, we come together as priests in formation, deacons in formation, lay people in formation. How can we do that together in places? So, I, as the dean, even though I'm a dean at the school, I've also taught the class to seminarians on ecumenical interreligious dialogue. So I just finished that in the J term a few weeks ago, which was wonderful. I love being with the seminarians. These guys are great guys from so many dioceses, 30 dioceses from around the country. El Paso, San Bernardino, Iowa, right? So it's wonderful to see the global
They really
church.
are outstanding young men.
They are
Faithful.
young men, and they are trying to understand the ecumenical interreligious context for their ministry, which that's what it is, right? Because you think when you're preaching on Sunday, you cannot assume that congregation, in fact, you should assume that they're not all Catholics there, right? So anyway, taught the class as seminarians, but then we also have classes on ecumenical interreligious dialogue for the deacons, and I want to get that in the parish ministry and get that into the grad program so that this work can be integrated for all those people in this age of synodality, in this age of co-responsibility, that we're all engaged in that work and doing it together.
That is so important because when you're in a seminary setting, that I was for 8 years at Niles College Seminary and Mundelein Seminary, it's a very enclosed world. But the key is to be prepared on the day of ordination to go out into the world dealing with women and men, people of all faiths and denominations of all ages. Because if you just take the seminary experience, it's not about just the education, but it's bigger than that, because the day you're ordained and go into a parish, you step into a whole different world. And no matter how much education you get, once you're in the trenches in the parish, it's a different ball game. So the work that you're doing is trying to prepare these men to hit the ground running and to further that dialogue in their parish. And to also, it's one thing we talk about dialogue, and you said before, the importance of listening. The importance of listening. And I always tell seminarians, you go as a young priest to be a teacher, but also a learner. And that's the humbling part, is that we are teachers, but also listen to your people, let them teach you in different ways. And I'm sure you say the same thing.
And they get it. For example, we just had a formation day about ecumenical and interreligious issues. And in the formation day, we brought together, again, deacons in formation, deacons to be in formation, right? Seminarians and lay people. And it was great because the seminarians who were from my class, at the last session, we had a dialogue and conversation where people were asking Q&A to the presenters. So all of us presenters, professors were sitting up there. And one of the seminarians got up and he said, "My question isn't for you, professors. It's for you, lay people and deacon candidates." He used the opportunity to have a dialogue, right, with the people that he's going to work with someday in the parish. He already was asking the question.
Which is fascinating. Which is wonderful.
He gets it.
He gets it. The thing is, and unless we are in dialogue, so the day you're ordained a priest, you go serve a people, and the gifts that I will bring, but also the gifts that will be given to the young priest, if he is a listener and a learner. And the thing is that what have you found? Now you've been at Mundelein Seminary, you've been with the Lake now since July of 2025, so a little, about 7 months, 7 months, is what has surprised you? In some ways, it's a tough question. What has surprised you?
Well, I mean, I'm still learning and listening as well.
Sure.
You know,
it's a different environment.
It's a different environment. A university, right? 16 years in university dealing with undergraduates is one thing. And of course, I knew there'd be a transition period. But what surprised me in a great way, or it's wonderful, is, when you're teaching 19-year-olds, you're having to convince them, why is this class important? Why should I care about theology, except for I had to check the box and it fit my time?
Right,
But the exciting, wonderful surprise is that, wow, I get to be involved with students who are adult learners, who want to be there, who are paying to be there, who have day jobs, and they spend their nights. And so just to be surprised by the real devotion and thirst for knowledge that these deacon candidates have and these lay ministers, surprised in a wonderful way.
That's interesting, and it because isn't it funny? You walk into a new position, and you can possibly perceive in your mind what it'll be, but then, like life, let it surprise you.
Yes.
And it has surprised you. Now, what do you have on the horizon? In your position as dean, between now and the end of the year? What are some of the goals you hope to attain?
Well, this year we are working on a thoroughgoing academic program review for the graduate programs, for the parish ministry programs, and the diaconate programs. So I already have committees hard at work to see how can we update the curriculum, make it relevant for people in the Archdiocese of Chicago. We have a Lisle grant that has enabled us to start these learning communities with people in various vicariates on the ground so we can get their feedback to improve our curriculum. So that's one of the major things I'm working on this year.
So your dish is full. Now, in closing, Rita, maybe give a nugget, food for thought, regarding Christian, Jewish, Muslim dialogue. What would you want people to leave from the program today?
Right. I said it before and I'll say it again. Never do dialogue in isolation. As Catholic Christians, we are called, again, read Nostra Aetate, because Section 3 is about dialogue with Muslims and Section 4 is about dialogue with Jews. And I would say as Catholic Christians, it's our duty and responsibility to engage in dialogue with both of those groups because they're very important to us as Christians and close to us. And they're great allies for us in the world.
Well, I want to thank in a very special way Dr. Rita George Tvrtkovic. Almost got it right that time. Been a great, great guest, and you'll be back on again. And your enthusiasm, Rita, your joy. What's interesting? You really love the work that you do.
I do.
It's fascinating. This is like a passion for you, and just fires you up to even talk about it because it's just for those that are watching the program right now, the podcast. It's like it's part of who you are. And also, I can tell that as much as you have learned and studied and all your degrees and everything, you are also a learner. You're a teacher, but also you're a learner. So I want to thank you very much for being on the program today. I want to thank in also a very special way our producer and director and choreographer and does everything, Michael May, and also assisted by Clint Cottrell. So to both of you, thank you very much for another great job. God bless all of you. Have a great week. Stay warm.